It's time for another episode of Bangers and Trash, your podcast for all things fantasy football.
Welcome to the Bangers and Trash podcast, and thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Lucio, aka at TFF Post on Twitter, and I'm joined as always by the stat man, Matthew May. Give everyone a wave. Cheers, Matt. No one can see you.
Thank you.
We've got Antonio, aka Lights Out 7.
What's happening, Luce?
And we've got Pietro Chevi, the doctor, philosopher, I can't even say the word, professor, the P-meister, the angry man.
Plenty of Twitter options there for you, mate. You've got a handle out of that.
You can pick one.
And today on this episode, we've got a big topic. We've recently been talking about quarterbacks. So now, obviously, the quarterbacks have to throw to somebody. So who are the people they're going to be throwing to? We're going to be ranking them 1 to 12 off the board. Who is going WR1, WR2, all the way down to 12? I know, P, you sent me a list all the way to 15. You researched how big there. Keep that for next week, though.
Tasty.
We're going to start, though, because P was the most organised out of everybody. Sorry, boys.
Well, he's a doctor. He's got a PhD. Not literally. Not literally what PhD stands for, but, you know, he's got a PhD in other ways. Pretty terrible.
You're going to have to elaborate. Sorry, Tone.
Just talk over him, Luch. Keep going.
Keep going.
I'm trying to figure out what PhD stands for. It's like a rude gesture or something like that, but no, nothing's coming to me. Anyway, P, who's your number one WR off the boards?
Well, I may as well make it simple for everyone. It's a choice of two, and I've gone.
Agreed.
I went for Tyreek Hill. I think the opposite of what everyone else has gone for. We'll find out.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought up that. It is out of 2, isn't it? Just to let you know, listeners, as well, we're trying something new today. I'm streaming this from my Twitter live, so trying to get some feedback. So if you've got any feedback, send me some messages, anything like that. That'd be amazing. Antonio, do you agree with P, or is he an absolute phony?
He's not a phony. It is between two, so I'm going to say the other one, and we'll have a discussion on who should. So Davante Adams is the other one, and it's very close between them. Adams was probably the more consistent and gave you the boom weeks this year, whereas you think of Tyreek as just a bit boom weeks. But I would probably go, if let's just say, if nothing changes dramatically, I'd still go Adams next year over Hill. But it's close.
Nice. And the stat man, Math?
Yeah, it's the same for me with as Tony with Adams, but it is out of the two with Tyreek Hill. To Tony's point, there were 3 players who averaged over 20 points last season. Davante Adams came in top 25.2. So yeah, you're getting the consistency out of him. Opportunity, talent. Yeah, if nothing major happens in the off season, then you've got to back Adams to go first for me. But I'm keen to hear Pietro's case for Tyreek, obviously.
Yeah. Could you explain?
There's 2 reasons I've gone for Hill first, right? I don't think anyone's going to argue that he's not the most explosive fantasy receiver out there.
He's the second fastest player in the NFL behind Scotty Miller.
I'd be in both. And then,
oh dear.
The problem was he was boom or bust, but this year his volume went up massively. He started getting 10 targets a game, which I've never seen him get before, which was I thought a big shift in the way Kansas City were playing. And he's, instead of getting his yards, blowing the top off of defense, he's been catching it in the middle. I lost my words now. In the middle of the area, yeah, and getting his yards after the catch. And he's getting more volume as well. So he's gone up in my estimations. Davante Adams hasn't moved from last year. He was still a great receiver, the best receiver in fantasy. But as the two of you probably alluded to just then, not everything is going to stay the same in Green Bay. For me, things are going to change. You've got Aaron Rodgers asking for a new contract, but Aaron Jones not going to get his money. almost definitely, and going elsewhere. There's going to be changes in that team. And I think Hill is actually the more steady option, which is why I put him, just edged him at first. You can't go wrong.
That's really interesting. And we have actually just got a from Twitter, a comment from @manyfacesofcello saying, P, you're an absolute bum. I can't believe you put Hill above Adams.
I think it's safe to say Cello's alive and well.
I don't comment.
Can I just, I wouldn't mind just chucking in a bit of a curveball here, if that's all right with everyone. So we are talking about pass catches, aren't we? And I'm interested to see if Travis Kelce falls in this group of two, considering that he's going to go back end of the first. So he's on the same team as Tyreek Hill, and we're saying, not much has changed. So that by that we mean the quarterback's stable, and they're not going to add a receiver or a receiver of note. So we know it's going to be Hill and Kelce. Are you taking Hill over Kelce, P?
Yeah. Kelce doesn't move for me in drafts. He's at the bottom of the first, top of the second, pretty much every year in a 12-man league. And I think you're talking Hill and Adams are somewhere in the middle of the first round. Roughly. Okay. I don't think
if you're pick 7 or 8, you're more likely to go Hill than Kelce.
Yes.
See, I think I might go Adams, Kelce, Hill. I think because I've never been that way really with a tight end. But we're talking about Kansas City here, obviously. So I think the leg up that he gives you on the tight ends next year is just going to be far and above what you can get as a wide receiver. And we're going to talk about some really good wide receivers in a bit. So if you tell me you can get Kelce and Robinson or someone like that over Tyreek Hill and Hawkinson, I would take probably Kelce and Robinson in that instance.
Yeah, I want to caveat what I said because I was talking about draft order. That's where I think these players are going. I'm Kelce's number one fan.
Yeah.
I want him on my team. So, but I'm not gonna. I don't think I would reach as high as you're talking there, middle of the first, which is roughly where you said. I think.
Yeah, that's outrageous call.
Usually bottom of the first.
Outrageous in the fact that I would still take all those running backs we talked about and Adams, and then what I'm saying is instead of going Hill or any of these other receivers, I would look at if my favorite running backs are gone, potentially looking at Kelce. I think he belongs in this tier as pass catchers. I think that's what I'm trying to say. And he's probably the only tight end we'll talk about for the rest of the show. So
it is interesting you brought him up in this already because you're talking about picking him there, and that's really I know P, you picked him in the first round, didn't you, Kelce? In one of the drafts, second, you were able to, but he
always
is
on
consistent.
Close to the turn though. You usually get him round about there.
Yeah, I think he belongs in this conversation.
He does.
It is interesting.
I think it'll be more popular than we're giving credit for. I think, to Antonio's point, if you miss out on your favorite RBs and you see Adams has gone, you will have a think. You will have a pause and have a think about taking him there, because then you are looking at him versus Hill. And I think it is much. I mean, Pietro's obviously named Hill above Adams, so it's a different conversation. But I think it'll be close for a lot of people. I could see that being a popular choice this year.
I just think you can hope that Kelce falls to the second, top of the second. So you're just going to hope to get.
I see what you mean.
How lucky you get. I don't know if you.
I think you summed that up really well. You got that headache really of who is there, but 3 out of 4 players, experts, choosing Adams over Hill, and P did explain why he would choose Hill, but we did have some abuse from Twitter. I have blocked that person off Twitter now, so hopefully we won't get any more abuse.
Goals.
So we'll go, Anton, who would be your second person then, as wide receiver or tight end?
Well, I think the more I think about it, I would put Kelce as my second and then Hill. So that's the top 3 for me. But that's taken into consideration, position scarcity at tight end. Once you get over that top tight end, I didn't see enough from Waller in the start of the season. I think he came on strong at the end. The Waller run reminded me a little bit of Higbee last year when everyone just jumped on Higbee and he fell apart this year. If you remember, Tyler Higbee the year before was really strong at the end. Waller had a very strong end. But I do think Waller and Kittle and Miles, that's the next tier of tight end. I don't think they come into this conversation today. Well, they will in drafts. So this is going back to Pietro's point. If we're talking about draft position, some of the receivers we talk about today might fall into that Kittle and Waller tier, but Kelsey's just a superior talent, so I think he belongs in this tier. But Tyreek Hill's going to win you a week on his own. Is Kelsey going to do that? That's the question.
I love that you just put it out there, Anto. I'll see what the two boys say, and we'll come back to that then. Matt, who's your second and third pick if we carry on the consistency like that?
Yeah, so obviously it's interesting what Lightside 7 is saying, and you can't move away from it. If I'm going purely wide receiver position, I'm going Tyreek Hill second. Obviously, we've mentioned it's out of the top two. For me, obviously, the offense is unbelievable. For Tyreek Hill, he's going to get opportunities, but I just don't see him getting as many or the consistency that Adams is getting. Obviously, we've got to caveat that with all of the changes going to happen over the off season. But for me, I mentioned he's one of the three players who had over 20 points, per game. So he's going to get you points, but Adams edges him. But yeah, top two, those two for me for wide receivers. But like I said, I would have a think. It depends where you are. It depends what's on the board. When it gets to that point, and if Adams is gone, I would be thinking about Kelsey, and I wouldn't be thinking about any other tight end.
So, are you saying Kelsey is your number 3 as well, then, receiver?
If we're doing it like that, it would be there'd be jostling for position, Tyreek and Kelsey, with Adams clearly above. But yeah, if you want my number 3 wide receiver, though, it would be
receiver.
Yeah, it would be Hopkins.
Thank you, Statman. If when I come on to aggressive P now, could you just check what Kelsey's average? You talked about Tyreek's being over 20. You talked about Devontae's. Could you check Kelsey's whilst I come on to P? Pete, who's your second and third pick for receivers?
Receivers, well, it's Adams second. There's no debate there. But I just want to say, if we're talking about my personal draft strategy, I wouldn't pick any of these boys. I ain't picking receiver at all. I want a running back number 1.
Yeah.
And then I'm hoping to get Kelsey number 2. It's as simple as that. But in terms of orders, I'll let someone else can take these two boys. I'm not first. Plenty of receivers out there. If we are counting Kelsey in the list, then he would slot in here as third.
Interesting. So, boys, I'm just going to put a spanner out there. Are you saying that you're overlooking Diggs in the top 3 wide receivers with what he's done with Josh Allen this year? Just to give you a heads up, Davante Adams had 353 points on the year for fantasy. Diggs had 320 and Tyreek had 317. So are you saying that, I don't know with Kelsey in that situation, but are you saying, for example, Matt, that Hopkins will play better than Diggs next year?
So for me, and this is a good question because Diggs was the other player who got over the 20 points. So he's not. So it was a great season. He had a great season with Allen. Obviously, there's no denying that. But it's only one season. And I just think, obviously, they've both got elite quarterbacks around them. And even though Diggs did outscore DeAndre Hopkins per game last year, I still edge Hopkins for me over Diggs. And I know that if you look at historic data, you'd say, oh, you've got to back Diggs, but I don't know. You'll probably absolutely destroy that opinion that I've got of him there. But I'm just not going to go with it based on just what I've seen this year.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. Boys, do you have any opinion about Diggs being in that category in the top 3?
You've got my list.
Yeah. Who did Pietro have after? So who's Pietro's number 3 wide receiver?
Go on, P. Sorry.
Yeah, I've gone for Metcalf third.
Okay, so for me, just thinking about if we could tier some of these again, I think I agree with Matthew. Diggs and Hopkins would probably be in that next tier, but I had Diggs above Hopkins. I had Diggs at number 3 in terms of wide receivers, and then Hopkins. And I think Hopkins is fine, but his routes are very shallow now. He's changed into a different receiver where he doesn't have the ceiling if he doesn't score touchdowns, if that makes sense. I don't really. All right, you could talk about that Hail Mary or whatever. As thinking about the deep throws that he had, but Diggs is more likely to go past someone and get that big play, as well as all those intermediate routes. Whereas Hopkins seems to be a bit more of a possession receiver now, and to be 1, 2, or 3, or to challenge Hill, you need to go over the top. And if you're challenging Adams, you need to be consistently catching. So Adams had 115 receptions. Hopkins had 115 as well, I think. But they're kind of, I think they're different targets. I really see Hopkins as a shallower route tree now. And maybe, I'm talking about actually of moving him down even more than 4, to be honest, just by talking. So let me have a think about that while we but Diggs is 3 for me.
What I would add to that is that Hopkins is the consistency. I appreciate what you're saying, Tone, about, is he looking like he's going to be used in a different way in the offense, which is obviously going to take away some of the opportunity to score points. So if you're talking about consistency, 17.6 PPR points per game for the 4th year in a row and the 5th time in the past 6 seasons. So for me, if I'm looking at someone that I believe can score me more points over the season, I'm taking Hopkins over Diggs.
So Hopkins had 6 touchdowns. I think that's going to rise. That's why I put him higher, because I remember looking at this and I said, right, okay, that's a low number of touchdowns, high number of receptions. So if one of those things is going to change next year, he should be in the end zone a bit more. Therefore, his scoring will go up. But I mean, he finished. So this year he finished wide receiver 8 in half-point PPR. So that I feel like 4's 3 and 4
with the new quarterback connection as well.
Exactly. That was his first year. Yeah.
Unbelievable. So boys, just to let you know, with the list, I put Kelsey in. So when you're talking about your receivers, P, I put Kelsey as 3, and then DK Metcalf as 4, and then Hopkins as 5 for you. And Matt, you put Hopkins as 3. What were you going to say, P?
I was just saying, you can see I've tiered them. I disagree with a lot of what's been said here, but go on, Luke.
We want to hear that disagreement, though. I know that Hopkins, if he listens to this, he will be shouting at all of you, saying, "I'm number 5. I should be number 2."
I know, I understand it, but I've honestly got DK in a bracket on his own in 3rd. I think he's above all of these boys that have been mentioned. He is a monster, and what we saw last year was just tip of the iceberg for his potential, what he's going to do. His touchdowns are going to go up, not down. What we saw from Diggs, which you all seem to like a lot about, that was his peak, I think, what we saw that last year. He's not getting better. He's not getting better numbers than he did last year. Not significantly, anyway. That's his peak. And that's probably the first year we've ever seen him play an entire season, start to finish. And I just don't understand the logic, putting him above these players. DK's got way more upside for me, and I want him on my roster.
That's big. So Diggs hasn't really got anyone challenging him for targets. And there's a big pie when Josh Allen drops back. I mean, he's dropping back. They're throwing the ball so much. They cannot run the ball, that team. I don't know what happened to Moss and Singletary this year. Yeah. So I trust Seattle to go back to how they won and how they got into the playoffs next year. I think they're going to go back to running the ball. And Lockett's not going away. His contract's not going away. So, all right, we're talking about a high percentage team that throw the ball. nearly double points. They scored 34 points, and Seattle were averaging 20, roughly. So there's a point scored, the more high passing team, and less targets. So there's 3 big whammies that I like Diggs, and that's why he finished above him this year. So what I'm saying is I don't think he's going to overtake Lockett that much, and I don't think Russell Wilson's going to throw that much. So Lockett, let's just look. Lockett finished wide receiver 9.
And I'd like you to exclude his 3 touchdown, 45.8.
Yeah, we know about
that. Which he drops outside the top 25.
Correct. So let's look at
DK.
Metcalf had 83 receptions. Lockett had 100.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Look, what Metcalf did with those receptions, that number is going up. You cannot not feed him the ball. He is the number 1 receiver in Seattle. It has to go up. He can do a lot more with the ball.
But 100 receptions for Lockett in a team that doesn't throw much, doesn't leave much for Metcalf. That's my argument, I think.
You say they don't throw a lot, but they did throw a lot.
Yeah, they did, and that's what I mean. That's what you got. You got 83. So I think Seattle run the ball a bit more next year. And it depends what happens with Carson, but I think they had success when they were a running team the last few years. And, the let Russ cook story was all fun. And actually, the first half of the season, when Russ was cooking, they looked unstoppable. And they went back to the running game, and it failed this year. But Pete Carroll's already talked about he wants to run the ball more next year, which is scary. I like Metcalf. I would instantly take Diggs over Metcalf if it was a selection. But that's me. And you could have Metcalf. I'll have Diggs. No problem.
I don't like Diggs. It's been so many years where he has the slightest niggle and his performances are just terrible.
And he moans.
When he's moaning,
he moans. He does moan. He moans a lot. Yeah.
This, that. I don't want that on my roster.
No. It's like playing football with Paolo. No one wants that. I love, boys, the back and forth there. I can see where P's coming from. DK is an absolute athlete. He is a bodybuilder who can sprint like Usain Bolt. The potential there is huge, and I can see where P's thinking he hasn't been capped yet. The Diggs scenario, I completely understand that as well. He's only had 1 good season, really, at Vikings. He was good. He was elite, but like we've talked just about, he moaned. It breaks up the team chemistry, stuff like that. So it's interesting to see where that goes. And obviously, with quarterbacks in certain positions, that's going to change certain things as well. Talk about Russell Wilson, great quarterback, going to be constantly fed. Lockett on the other side. If the run game does start, obviously that opens up Lockett to catch more bombs. So we'll see. We'll write this list and we'll see how it goes. Let's go to Matt, though. Statman Matt, did you have any stats for Kelsey?
Yeah, so he scored 21 points, average 21 points per game. So he would be the 4th, one of 4 to get over 20 points per game last season. So it definitely puts him in that category.
In that tight end.
As a tight end, yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
It is
Does that
insane.
make him, was he more productive than Tyreek or less productive?
He was as productive as Tyreek.
Oh, amazing. So when we're looking at that, we're talking Kelsey. It wasn't outrageous to put him in that top 2-3 bracket because he's there. So Matt, let's talk about your pick 4 and pick 5 for your receivers.
So my receivers is Diggs was my 4th. Led the NFL in receptions, loads of receiving yards, scored 8 touchdowns, great first season, moaned a lot, I'm sure. Part of a great offense, got a great quarterback who loves to throw the ball.
Yeah.
Yep.
And as I say it, it does make you think, well, why the hell is he your number 4 and not your number 3? But I'm sticking with Hopkins' consistency. And then my number 5 is Ridley. He's overtaken as a number 1 wide receiver at the Falcons.
The guy you tried trading all year.
Yeah, and for context, because I had Devontae Adams and Keelan Allen and Ridley.
Nice.
I mean, what a stack.
Nice.
But yeah, obviously, if you're looking at last season, very up and down. There was a goose egg at one point. But yeah, Ridley stock has gone up for me for this season. He's my number 5.
Okay, interesting. We've just got another message on Twitter, boys. You can't block me. I can't believe Pietro the Professor has said DK at number 4. He's clueless.
I mean,
Bring it on.
It's not very nice, is it?
Bring it on.
It's not.
He's got a PhD, for God's sake.
Come
Got
on,
any
shut and
comments?
challenge me. That's what I say.
I'll block him again. Don't worry. I'm guessing it's the same person. Right. Let's go on to your pick 6, 7, and 8P, please.
6, 7, 8.
Yeah,
And
that's not
the 4,
put
yeah.
Kelsey in.
Lucio's putting him in for
Okay.
you, P.
So,
Yeah, you've done
this would
DK
be,
and then
including
Hopkins.
Kelsey, this is my 5 to 7.
Yeah, go
Is
on.
that right? All right. And it's good as 5 to 7. So I've pretty much got all 3 of these pretty level. So I got, not in any order, I got Diggs, Hopkins, and Ridley. In the order I'd put him in, actually, was Hopkins, Ridley, then Diggs. Because as I said, I don't like Diggs. Yeah.
So what is your official order?
Go on, Hopkins, Ridley, Diggs.
Hopkins.
And
I'm going to get
Got
you
my
a
reasons
T-shirt.
for
I
Diggs.
don't like Diggs T-shirt, P.
But those players will
Love
finish roughly. It's going to be close, a knife edge for those 3, to be honest. So I don't think you could go too wrong there.
Yeah, I think we looked at our picks, just to let the listeners know. We looked at our picks and compared them to with the quarterback, and compared them to NFL experts as well, like Florio. I don't know his first name. I've forgotten it. Sorry, Florio. And Mike Florio. That's the one. And our picks were very similar to these NFL experts. So it just shows what we're talking about is the consensus around the boards.
Those were all wrong.
Oh.
Together.
Cello's here, is he?
Yeah, the only person who was wrong was Cello saying no Chubb.
Oh dear.
Matt, who's your pick 6 and 7?
So my pick 6 and 7, I'm going to go Michael Thomas and Keelan Allen. And I had previously ranked them in the order I said them, but I would be willing to put Keelan Allen above Thomas. Thomas will be a value pick next season because of everything that's happened this year. He would have been a lot of people. Obviously, questions around the quarterback. Allen is just a machine with just an ear, but if you want opportunity, Keelan Allen is unbelievable. And he's just outside of the top, averaging 20 points per game. He was very consistent for me last year. So yeah, I was willing to keep him over Ridley. So
nice.
Yeah.
Okay, I like how you backed that up. It's interesting how we've got this different perception on players, and I'm sure P will, has already explained, he's put his 3 players in a category. We'll go on to Lights Out 7. Lights Out, did you hear what Matt just said with his 6 and 7?
I did. Yeah. So we got a couple of new names there, haven't we?
Yeah.
We got Thomas. So what number am I on? Because I don't
6 and 7. I put Kelsey in.
Okay, so I went Hill, Adams, or Kelsey, top 3, whatever order. Then I said Diggs and Hopkins. So I'm on 6. I would throw in a name we haven't talked about here. AJ Brown. I think he's going to have a big season next year. I would choose AJ Brown above Metcalf, Thomas, Keenan Allen. And the reason is very similar to the Diggs conversation. I know it's big. He is ready for a breakout. Now, we talked about Metcalf having a breakout and overtaking Lockett or whatever. But AJ Brown next year has, again, it's the lack of targets everywhere else that I'm looking at. So I'm trying to find out the next person who's going to have a Diggs-like season where the quarterback just homes in on one person. So that's not going to happen for me for Metcalf. It's not going to happen for me for even Keenan Allen, really, or any of these, or maybe even Ridley. If Julio's fit, do you think Matt Ryan's going to home in on Ridley? Probably not. So I would AJ Brown's he's got the physique, as we all know and can see on Twitter. He's got the speed, and he's got the kind of prototype wide receiver 1 size. And he's got a quarterback in Tannehill who's improved dramatically, I think, personally, over the last couple of years. And they've got a new change of coordinator who's probably going to they ran a lot with Henry. Maybe they throw a little more. And really, they're not a running team. You think of Tennessee as a running team, but actually they were middle of the road. They run and pass ratio. So I think there's a lot going for AJ Brown next year. I think he is a massive sleeper because you haven't got to get him in this range. You can wait and get him as your wide receiver 1. That's my piece on AJ Brown. Fire away. I'll just duck and cover now.
I'm not going to argue, so I've got him at 7 as well.
Okay, good. That's all right. I thought
Lucho's got the proof.
Yeah.
I'm my right, so I got Metcalf for free, and you're going above him. So yeah,
I'm going above Metcalf. Again, I'm looking for someone who can have that Diggs target share. And you're telling me Corey Davis and John Smith. Corey Davis might not even be there. So we're now talking about rookies and a free agent wide receiver joining. He's on his own.
I agree.
The only argument that the listeners might have against that is, obviously, we're talking about, except for Adams, every other person we talked about, and Diggs, everyone else has got another superstar in that team. When we're talking about Ridley, when Julio was on the pitch, Ridley played better and got more of the ball because Julio gets that attention from your people like Ramsey and your one-on-one cornerbacks and double safety covers, even triple safety sometimes. Whereas when you're looking at AJ Brown, do you think that the defenses will now start focusing on him and not loading the box against Big Derek?
I was just going to go. I think it's the opposite because the reason Corey Davis did so well last year was because they were focusing in on AJ Brown. So he's already had to play like that as the man being focused on. So I think he's already proven it.
Nice.
He can play through.
Perfect. That's all. I wanted to hear the explanation if you had that backed up. And so who's your pick 7?
Ridley. Tentatively, I would say, over DK Metcalf. Because I think Julio's not going away.
Yeah. Okay. That's big first 7, boys, for most of you. Really is quite consistent. The only one that's chucked in a couple of different names, Michael Thomas. What do you think of that, boys, coming as number 6 on Matt's list?
Yeah, so obviously he's going to probably be the one that drops the most, I can imagine. And it's just, we can't not say about the quarterback here, can we? And also, does he look the same player when he came back? So there's that as well. It was a bad injury he had. I mean, most people come back halfway through the season from a high ankle sprain. He left it to the right at the end. Don't know if he looked the same to me. That was just my eye test.
Well, I was just saying, fairness to him, he came back. It was a small sample size, and it was the playoffs, so it was hard to judge. You need a full preseason really to see if he's going to be back. And I got him at 8, so coming up next. So I agree. Well, he's in the same bracket, so Matthew's not way off, but he's obviously fallen. I mean, he had a terrible season. Drew Brees is likely going until we know centre. And this counts for Kamara as well. If Hill is under centre, it is an absolute killer for all of these boys. I don't think he will be. I'd love it if it was someone like Winston, but it's not going to be. It's going to be someone. We need to know who. So until then, he's sitting round about there, I think.
I like it, boys. Matt, did you want to back up Thomas?
No, I mean, I agree. Like I said, he's going to be a value pick. He probably, for a lot of people, won't be in that top 6. I like him there. I think the talent doesn't go away. I think it is a small sample size, and it was a bit of a general all over the place offense for the Saints. So, yeah, I think someone will get a good deal on him. He will drop further than what I've given him credit for. But I think when you do take him, I think he will do well for someone next season, especially if you get a good bargain on him.
Yeah, and you bringing up that where he could drop even out of the top 12, let's say, could be on the edge. And if you're there on the 12th wide receiver off the board, you're snapping him up without a thought, aren't you? P, were you going to say something then?
He's a type of player right now in a position he's in where if you land on him, you're thinking, ooh, do I want to go for it right now? Or is there someone around there that feels a bit safer?
Yeah, I completely agree. Like I picked him last year as my WR3. Somebody had Adams, somebody had Hill, and somebody had Tyreek, and Kelsey all off the board before me, and I came as pick number 8 or 9 off the board, and I chose Thomas off the hype that he's going to boom again, and obviously that spoiled my league. Let's not bring that up. Pete, who is your pick 8 and 9? Oh, let's go to 10 actually. 8, 9, and 10.
Okay. Well, Thomas at 8.
Yeah.
9 and 10 is very simple. But I expect people are going to disagree. It's the 2 Tampa boys. I have gone in this order: Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and I'll back up Mike Evans now. I won't have a discussion about why they're there, but I've gone Evans over Godwin because I've been an Evans hater for quite a long time. But he kept looking for him in the end zone constantly. He was the touchdown man. And he's a Tampa Bay where they've just got so many weapons, but he's the one they go to in the end zone, which I liked. He's got Tom Brady throwing on the ball, and they're on a great team, which are going to go far. So sounds like a perfect player to have in your roster.
Yeah, I like that you brought up Evans. I like that you brought him up. We'll have a little discussion about both of them being in the top 10. That's a big shout. We'll go to lights out though.
What number am I on?
8, 9, and 10.
Okay, I would go Michael Thomas 8, so he's not dropping that much. Chris Godwin definitely 9. I'm going to say Justin Jefferson 10, and there's a reason for that, but I don't know if you want to bring him up now or later. It's up to you.
Bring it up now if you want to.
So I think Jefferson has overtaken Thielen in terms of just pure route running and where he's utilized basically across the formations. What I saw last year, so looking at yardage, Jefferson had 1,400. We all know he broke the rookie records or whatever, and I think he was 3rd. Adam Thielen had 925. Now, did he play all season, Thielen? I think he did. Oh no, he missed 1 game. Looking at this, so I mean that's a massive difference if you're looking at the top 2 receivers on the team. I think the switch has already happened, and Thielen's going to be a year older. Thielen had 14 touchdowns to Jefferson 7. So for me, we're looking at, again, yards against touchdowns. There's only one that's going to change. I don't think the yardage is going to change. That's my argument for Diggs. So I think Jefferson's touchdowns go up, Thielen's go down. Therefore, Jefferson scores a bit higher this year. He has to be, in my opinion, he has to be in the top 10.
Yeah, and I know Matt has been nodding like a Cheshire cat with some of the stats you were coming out there, Statman Math. I know he texted me earlier saying that Justin Jefferson per game had 16.7 and actually outranked Thielen by 0.3. So Statman Math agrees. Matt, who was your 8, 9, and 10?
So I love the Jefferson talk. He doesn't make it into my top 10, but he's just outside. But yeah, he's a record holder for rookie. Number 8 is DK Metcalf. Don't worry, P, you can have him. I'm not going to steal him away from you. He's number 8 for me. But yeah, then it's Julio for me. So I'm surprised he hasn't been mentioned in other people's top 10. Still elite, but plenty of unknowns, I know. And then it's Mike Evans. And not to rip off what Pietro's saying, but yeah, what an offense. What a quarterback. I had Antonio. I had AB. Huh?
Thought you were going to say Antonio Brown.
No, I did. I
he was.
I had Antonio Brown last season, and every time I had a look at how Antonio Brown was doing, Mike Evans was catching it in the end zone. So I'm very familiar with how much Mike Evans gets targeted in the end zone by an unbelievable quarterback. So yeah, he's in the 10 for me. But the points around Jefferson was strong. But he doesn't make it. But those are my 3 to make up the 10.
Okay.
Can we go back? Can we have a chat about Evans and Godwin? Because I think I'm the only one higher with Godwin. Yeah. Luce, where do you stand on those two?
I wouldn't put them in the top 10 for me. I would be putting, like, for example, in your list, so you brought up Diggs. I would be putting Diggs over Godwin. I would be putting
number
Jefferson.
3. He was number 3, mate.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, I can see it now.
So someone's just contacted us on Twitter and said Lucho is a poor host.
Sorry, Tom.
Sorry, no problem.
I personally would be putting Jefferson above Godwin. I absolutely love what Jefferson did this year. I'm not sure if Brady will be able to do it again next year. I know everyone's been saying that for the last 10 years, but I just think that personally, like, you see a lot of the time as well, Brady stat pads, and that's what worries me the most, whereas Jefferson was consistent. When Brady knows he can attack defenses, that's when they're bombing it, and that's when these players like Godwin were racking up the points. And personally, I wouldn't want that. I'd rather that Jefferson or Ridley over those players. So yeah, I would put Godwin if I was at roughly around 10.
But Godwin but between Godwin and Evans, you would choose Evans over Godwin?
Yes.
So all 3 of you have gone Evans over Godwin.
I'll explain why.
Interesting. I would really like to know why, talent-wise.
I think Godwin is a better receiver than Mike Evans.
Agreed.
But fantasy production, who was more productive last year? Evans' production went up. Normally, he doesn't get these type of touchdowns. He doesn't get all these looks. But he did get it. Godwin almost got faded by Brady a little bit. I'm not sure why, towards the end of the year. And Evans was his favourite receiver. So if I got to pick the favourite, I'm going to do it. It's not, you can't have that many favourites. Like I said, I don't like Evans, but if he gets more points over the year.
Well, I'm going to do some maths quickly. Leave me out of this a minute.
Okay.
This is interesting.
Let me add to it. Like, Brady's got loads of weapons. Evans emerged as his favourite weapon. It's as simple as that.
So yeah.
But those weapons disappear this year.
Evans
disappears. Gronk too.
Exactly. This is that. So this is my argument, and I've said this a couple of times to you guys before. When Antonio Brown's on the field and there's more targets for Brady, Godwin disappears a little bit. If it's just those 2 next year. And AB goes, and none of these other Scotty Miller and they don't bring in another receiver, and it's more 2 receivers, and maybe they go 2 tight ends. I think Godwin has a better season than Evans, and I don't think it'll be close. So Godwin had 65 receptions, and Mike Evans had 70 receptions. How many more games did Evans play than Godwin, do we think?
Godwin missed a good. Evans played them all, didn't he? About one.
Evans played them all. No, he played them all. He went off injured in one, but
Godwin broke his finger and had it fixed. And he missed
Godwin missed 4 games, 4 whole games, and Evans only had 5 more receptions.
But you're kind of proving our point. What was the touchdowns like?
Well, Miles So Evans smashed him in the touchdown department, but Godwin was 4 games behind him and only 5 receptions behind him.
So if you listen to your logic, same amount of receptions roughly, and Godwin and Evans gets double digits touchdowns and Godwin doesn't.
So Godwin has 7 touchdowns, Evans had 13. Yeah. But for me, that's again, so my logic in my eyes and my head, that those touchdowns are dangerous numbers to bank on. And I'd rather receptions and yards. So it's the same logic as Diggs and and who did I just talk about? Jefferson. The yards are there, the receptions are there. They're better receivers. They get open. Evans can't separate. We know this. We watch him all the time. He runs one route and he outjumps someone and falls over. So there's no run after the catch.
And it works.
There's no separation. It's just I'm taller than you and I can catch higher than you. Now,
in a
And I
playoff.
fall into the end zone more than you.
yeah, well, okay, so his bigger body or whatever is a bigger target for Brady in the end zone. But in terms of receiver talent, Godwin's just miles ahead in my opinion. And he's young, he's 24.
I don't
He's
think
only
we're
gonna get better.
disagreeing is the thing. I just,
Yeah.
to be honest,
Well,
I'm going to be mad.
I would.
I think that's the
Yeah,
only
I would. If Antonio Brown leaves, I'm taking Godwin over Evans in the draft. I think I'm going to bet on the receiver talent and the receptions over touchdowns. And I think that's the common theme that I'm trying to go with here with the touchdowns. I think some of them are lucky. These touchdowns, you know, some of them are
But
like
then-
Thielen, 14 touchdowns. Is Thielen going to get 14 touchdowns again?
Why doesn't that logic then fall on Devontae Adams?
He's done it every year.
And what do you mean? He had 18 touchdowns. Were you saying that that's going to go down? So that's a high number.
No,
So I should be
it's
thinking
going to go down. I think it'll stay rough. It'll stay pretty close. But you said that you shouldn't target touchdowns.
no. I think that's a terrible.
I agree with that
thing.
logic, but I don't understand why it's not followed through with some other receivers like the
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I can't answer that. I think Adams is maybe the outlier. Then I wouldn't look at that 18 touchdowns and think, oh my God, Adams is not going to be a 1 or 2 next year. But I would look at someone like Evans who's got no run after the catch ability, and he's reliant on one thing, out jumping someone. That scares me. That's all I would say.
I agree.
I'm trying to sell him. You can come and get him in Dynasty. I've got him everywhere. I'm trying to get rid of him.
I got them right next to each other, 9 and 10. So either or is good for me. I like them both.
Interesting. Okay, boys, great discussion there. We'll come on to the last 2 picks and we'll discuss anything more afterwards. Matt, before you go on to your last 2 picks, who's your pick number 7 again?
My pick number 7 was Thomas because I put Allen as number 6.
Yeah, lovely.
Because of the look on people's faces.
That's fine. So who's your pick 11 and 12?
So 11, Jefferson. I mean, there's been a bit of a parade for him already. Amazing 2020. 88 catches, 1,400 yards. Rookie record numbers for a rookie. I agree, he's taken over Thielen. So yeah, phenomenal talent, phenomenal player for next season. He could be higher, but I have got him at 11, and then 12. So this is I'm going to break the rules a bit, Lucho, because I have 4 players who could fit in there. This is all of a tier. Well, let me just name them. AJ Brown.
No.
AJ Brown and Godwin have been named. McLaurin.
Oh yeah, both of them.
McLaurin's there, and Higgins with a healthy Burrow for me could be sneak into that top 12. Yeah, I know. So
hello, Matthew. That is tasty. That
is tasty, that isn't it? So I mean, I'll be after Higgins next season, P, when you pick it up inevitably. But I will. Right, let me settle on someone then. I'm not going to go Godwin. I'm going to go AJ Brown.
AJ Brown.
Godwin.
I'm going to go AJ Brown. He only played one of the first 4 games last season. I think there was one of those as a bye anyway. But he scored over 20 PPR. He averaged over 20 PPR points in across a 6-game period. So he has shown that he's got it in his locker. He's got a consistency. Antonio's already talked him up a lot. I think, it could be a massive season for him, but he's got to do it first. So he's 12 for me.
Okay. Pete, who's your 11 and 12?
11 was Justin Jefferson, for reasons we have talked a lot about, so I won't bother going too much else. But isn't it funny how well Jefferson did in exactly the same position that Diggs was in for 3 years and didn't do that great?
Let it go.
Just saying. 12, again, this is probably the toughest choice because this is where you can choose a lot of players. I've gone for one who I think has the best upsides for me, and it's Terry McLaurin. because I would love to see what he does with a quarterback. It'd be nice. So yeah, I think he's got a lot of upside at that position, which is why I would like him there.
Nice. I completely agree with F1 McLaren. Anto?
Keenan Allen at 11 and Julio Jones for me at 12. A couple of veterans there. They're not going away. We haven't spoke much about Julio or Allen. Allen's got the quarterback. Well, they both got good quarterbacks, so they both got that kind of rapport. And they're just a safe pair of hands, aren't they? So I think they both finish wide receiver ones right at the edge. That's where they live on the 11 and 12 border for me.
Pietro, did you not have Allen in your top 12?
No, he didn't. I was just about to say
Allen he's in the list. If you look, Allen is 14 for me, but you've ruined next week's show now, Matt.
You are honestly, you are a maniac.
The reason I got to explain, like Antonio's picked the safe players. I do agree with him. They have better hands, but you just know where you stand with people like Julio Jones and Keenan Allen. There's no sort of fun. There's no potential for upside. You know what you're going to get. You know what I mean? So I've tried to pick players where, yeah, like you said with T. Higgins, trying to pick players with a bit more upside.
Yeah, that's fair. The only thing with Keenan Allen, I mean, Herbert looks great, doesn't it? So yeah. I mean, if they keep throwing it, he's gonna keep scoring. So it is a bit boring, but I think that's safe. Julio is probably the one that, if you want to talk about anyone who scares the life out of me.
That's a big combo.
Yeah, but then he's Julio, isn't he? So I mean, if he stays fit, how the hell is he not going to finish as top? What we've got to assume is they stay. We're doing these rankings assuming they're staying fit, correct?
Yeah.
Honestly,
he's got to be in there. He cannot be in there. He cannot not be in there.
You can't assume that Julio plays a whole season because I don't think he ever has. Is it fair though? Do you know when you're drafting, you can't pick a player who's never completed the season and say, it's just the year he does it at 31. He's going to play a full year. Whatever, I think he's 31. He's going to play a full year.
Might be 32 next year. I don't know.
You're going to play a full season?
But if he does, I can tell you he's going to finish in the top 12 without a shadow of a doubt.
I honestly don't think he will. I don't think he can make that assumption.
Okay, boys, you brought up... Go on, sorry.
That was just the very quick spot. He doesn't get the touchdowns he needs as a superstar receiver that he should. Don't know
yeah,
why.
that is a good point. And that hasn't changed, is it? Because there was a lot of stick about that, and we all thought that might change. So, that's a good point about touchdowns. That you don't always see us flip next year because we were expecting that from Julio. But then again, he's finished as a top 5 receiver without those touchdowns. That's what I'm saying. So imagine if he starts catching them in the end zone.
We'll have to imagine.
Boys, whilst you were chatting then, I just wrote down everybody who you picked and I put a range really of where they could go. So we put Adams 1 or 2, Kelsey 2 or 3, Hill 1 to 3. So there's a bit of confusion there. Diggs was 4 or 7. Hopkins was 3 to 5. AJ Brown is a sneaky sleeper at 6 or 12, and P didn't put him in his top 12. So
got him at 7. I sent you the list, Luch. I got him at 7.
We changed the list.
And I got him to 6 as well.
Kelsey's confused everything. Okay, never mind about that.
Take him out.
Kelsey's out. Okay, never mind then. We've also put this is absolute nightmare. We put Ridley 5 to 7. We put Thomas 6 to 8. We put Godwin 9 or 10. Or Matt, you didn't even put him in your top 12. Can you explain why?
I went for Evans, and I just didn't think there was a place for Godwin in my top 12.
That's fine.
For having Evans.
Jefferson 10 or 11, very consistent there, lads. Keenan Allen. I'm sorry if you've put him on the list, but Keenan Allen, 6 or 11. So there's a big gap there, and P didn't put him in his top 12, according to my list. Yeah, I may have got that wrong.
14.
Yes!
Pietro's list is just DK Metcalf in capital letters. 1 through 12.
His first name is capital letters.
Why Why was Keenan Allen not in your top 12? Can you explain any where you talked about?
Just there, he was 14, so between 11 and 14, 11 and 15, they're basically the same player for me. But I picked the one that was, like I said, a bit more fun.
Yeah.
You get a bit more excited about.
Yeah, exactly. And you talked about why. So Julio Jones was the last one in Antonio's list, 9 to 12, and he said won't be in that top 12 because of injury reasons, and he explained that. Apart from that, boys, a lot of your discussions are in that bracket, and Pete's been talking about it for the whole show. That bracket, it's quite hard to pinpoint one exactly being number 2 or 3 with all the changes that could happen. And that's the interesting point, is who you prefer. Like Antonio's saying this person's a bit safer. P, the aggressive person, saying I want someone aggressive who's gonna bang. And Matt, Switzerland's going, I'm gonna go in the middle. So that's the difference in your personalities, and that comes across in the fantasy, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Spot on, Luce. I thought that was good. So at the end of the day, we're looking at this and we're saying, right, Pietro is going to reach for DK, or not reach him. Whenever he gets DK, that's his banger. For me, AJ Brown is mine this year, and Matthew, who did you? Keenan Allen, I guess.
Keenan Allen is
yeah.
So we've all gone for three names there that we're high on, and maybe the others are not. So I thought that was really good.
Yeah, really good. And Jefferson being at the 10-11 is where I'd think it would be. So that's everything from me. I don't know if anyone else has anything they want to discuss before we go off.
That was good.
So thanks again for joining us, listeners. As always, let us know whether you agree or disagree by tweeting us at Bangers and Bangers Trash Pod on Twitter. Where can we reach you guys, Anto? Where can people reach you if they want to message you directly?
They can reach me on Twitter, acarnivali7 at acarnivali7. That's how Twitter works, doesn't it? So
yeah, lovely. Thank you.
He'll tweet you back a month later when he gets a notification.
Yeah.
Matt, where can they find you?
I'm at StatmanMay on Twitter.
Yeah, perfect. And Pete, will they be able to message you on the Bangers and Trash, and will you reply to that one instead?
If one day.
Yeah, I think lovely. You can find Piet.
You can find us all on Bangers and Trash. That's easy as well.
Can find us all there. Pietro's always
work it out.
Hashtag lights out 7.
There's a couple of forums Pietro spends a lot of time in as well. iHeart, CEH being one of the big ones. iHeart, DK Metcalf being another one.
DK Metcalf, yeah.
And anything on any subreddit around CEH, I think Pietro is all over that. So yeah, plenty of places to find Pietro, the doctor.
Do you know what I was going to just throw in at the end? Should we do a live? Do you want to do a live fantasy dynasty trade with me right now?
Please.
Who's going to say yes to that?
Let's do it.
I thought it was going to be a live redraft with us guys on here. That would be a great show, wouldn't it?
We should do that. We're definitely going to do that in the off. I think we should do that in the off season. We should do a draft.
Going to do that.
But
and
for now,
hear us panic. But no, I don't want to trade.
Okay, all right. Well, I was gonna say the two. I'm looking at who I want to not get rid of, but I'm listening for offers. And we've had a lot of discussion about Mike Evans. He's on my dynasty team, and Nick Chubb as well is getting a lot of love from this group. Also on my dynasty team, and I would be listening to offers for both of those.
Send Chubb over. Send him over.
Those players. So if you want to throw an offer out now for the listeners, see what happens.
No.
If I was going to take Cello's advice, I'll give you a third round for Chubb.
All right, then we'll leave it there, lads.
Let's leave it there.
On that bombshell, Antonio's gone. On that bombshell, join us next week where we're talking about the rest of the best.